Today we're going to be taking a look at some seldom seen, inventive little contraptions from the early 1900s that were devised to make a man's shaving time easier, or at least helped him adapt as new technology leapfrogged from one new gadget to the next. First, a quick history lesson. In the beginning, there was the straight razor. It was effective, but could be difficult to use and required a certain skill set, much like Liam Neeson's. To keep it sharp, a gentleman would need to strop it, move it back and forth on a leather strip or strop. Doing this would keep the razor in good shape for many shaves until it needed to visit the hone again. To make things easier, the safety razor was invented. The safety razor was easier to use, but the blade, which was a smaller, chopped-off version of a straight razor, still needed to be kept sharp for continuous use. For that job, most safety razors came with a small device that attached to the handle of the razor. You could insert your blade in the holder and use a regular strop to keep your blade in tip-top condition. Pretty simple and straightforward, right? Now remember, this is the early 1900s. Simple and straightforward were not in vogue. We needed complex and ingenious. Soon, any number of gadgets came along to help the shaver keep their blades sharp. This is the Star stropping machine. With a pretty wooden handle and cams that would move back and forth, you would insert your blade into the holder, and using a swing strop, you could keep your blade sharp. Caractacus Potts would be proud. It's a very high quality device, and while you have to admit it's overkill for the job, you have to appreciate the design effort. Here are a few similar examples from early catalogs. A few years later, the shaving seismic earthquake that was Gillette hit, and his new thin disposable blades quickly became a force to be reckoned with. But being the frugal bunch that Americans were at the time, just throwing away a disposable blade just didn't seem quite right. So a number of devices were created to strop your Gillette blade and the newer, more modern disposable single-edge blades to keep them going and going and going. This is the ever-ready automatic stropper. You'd put your blade in the holder and use a small strop to sharpen the blade. Another very well-made device. It's compact and sturdy. Look at those tiny cams. I don't have the small leather strap that came with it, but it works just fine with a standard strop. And it does take a little practice to get your wrist action just right, but it's not hard. Another take on the same idea. This is a Henkel's device for the Rapide razor that also takes a small leather strop I don't have. You just ran the device across the strop and the friction would flip the blade from one side to the next. Now this little item might go unnoticed even to a shaving aficionado if you didn't know what it was. When blades got skinnier as time went on, the small blades wouldn't work on the older safety razors unless they had small tabs on the end of the comb. This adapter was a handy solution. You could insert your new skinny disposable single-edge blades into the clamps, and then the back end would fit onto the older safety razors. Pretty nifty. This must be the granddaddy of all over-the-top blade sharpeners. Made in Sheffield, England, the home of some of the finest straight razors made back in the day, this is the Spiro automatic stropper, made specifically for the Gillette-style double-edge razor blades. The maker's mark is London and John Watts, established 1765, and it looks like this old company still had a few tricks up its sleeve. By the use of a hinged hand crank, two rods covered with small spiral leather strops would run across both ends of the blade. This unit feels like it's built to military specifications and was certainly designed to last. So much effort into a quality product that was designed to sharpen a disposable product. I tip my hat to you, my good sirs. To end, a slight departure. I'm including this razor because when I came across it, I didn't even know it was a razor. In the early 20s, a certain Colonel Schick invented a razor heavily inspired by the repeating rifle. The Schick Injector razor is still around, but this is what it used to look like. This one originally had a cap, and the whole thing resembled a lipstick case. But this little mechanical wonder has a few tricks up its sleeve. On this side, we have the blade storage, and on this side, we have the injector mechanism. You insert the blade, and then it's pushed through the slot at the top near the razor's head. Then you just flip the head and you're ready to shave. Certainly a long way from the simplicity of the straight razor. Thanks very much for coming along on our look back at some of the more obscure but certainly interesting items that were used in the early days of shaving. Happy shaving all!